All righty. Well, let's get started. So, thank you guys for coming today to the Vet Tech programs. I think this is our last webinar of this season, but we will start back up again in 2025 with a whole new series. It'll be our third season. So this is Whisker Wonderland because we all like puns. But this is kind of, we put together this kind of holiday survival guide, not just for you, but for your pets, because it is a super stressful time for both humans and our four-legged friends, and any ways that we can make it easier is always kind of a nice thing to do. I am Jen Serling. I am the director of the Veterinary Technology Program. I am a credentialed technician, have been a credentialed technician since the dawn of time. I call myself a dinosaur, but lately I'm like, you know what? Let's put a positive spin on this. I'm not a dinosaur. I'm what we call vintage, and everyone likes vintage. That's very in. All right. Well, let's dive into ways that we can make the holidays not just easier, but also safer, because there are, a lot of things going on during the holidays. We've got the house looks different. You got decorations. You've got different smells because you've got these, your lovely, Yankee candles burning, and everything smells like pumpkin or spice or sugar cookies. And you've got people coming in, and you've got presents, and there's lights, and it's for some pets, this is like super crazy time. So let's talk about some ways that we can make things better and easier. In case you have not figured out, I am huge on memes. I love memes. They make me happy. I put them in every freaking presentation that I do, because it just makes me smile. And if it can, bring a smile to anyone else, it's a good day. So what I'm going to talk about, because there's kind of, you got four main themes over the holidays of people, what we tend to be experiencing. A lot of people are traveling. A lot of people don't want to leave their pets at home. They want to take them with them, or you're leaving them at home with potentially house sitters, and that's going to be a different experience for them. There's food galore. We've got Thanksgiving right around the corner. I can't believe it's like in 2 weeks. But we've got various types of food that we're going to be having, and that some of those are in, pause reach of our four-legged friends. Like I said, the house is decorated differently. And then I want to talk about well-being for our pets, because pets do get stressed. They do experience anxiety. So how can we make things easier on them? The other thing that I did want to mention before I even start this, because we do see an increase of pet visits into the emergency clinics during this time, or into your general practitioners, because they're eating things they're not supposed to, they ingest things they're not supposed to. Those can get very pricey. So if you get anything out of this presentation, if you do not already have pet insurance, get pet insurance. It will save you so much money, and make things a little bit less financially taxing if, God forbid, something happens and you need to take your pet to the ER, or there's some sort of urgent type visit. So please, please, please get pet insurance. All right, so let's talk about traveling with your pet. So most pets like car rides. Most dogs like to go in the car. Not all dogs do. Some of them get car sickness. Some of them just really don't like to leave their house. That's their safety area. They don't want to go anywhere. But a lot of people do like to travel with their pets, and I think that's becoming more and more popular. You see, dog-friendly restaurants and dog-friendly hotels and dog-friendly events. So a lot of people do like to take their pets with them. So just some things to be aware of when you are traveling with your dog or cat, or any other friend as well. You want to try to make sure that you schedule extra time for travel. If you think about when you're in the car, for 2 hours, and you're like, oh my God, my back is hurting, my legs are cramping up, I need to pee and I'm tired. So not just us, but our pets need a break too. I've seen, last time I drove across the country, I actually found several rest stops right off the highway that actually had dog parks. So they had a big fenced in area that you could actually let your dog off leash and let him run around and get some of the zoomies out of them, which I thought was amazing. I think every rest stop in America should have a dog park. I thought that was like the most brilliant thing ever. This was in Oklahoma, and then I think it was, or was it Michigan? I don't remember. Anyways, there was several, and I thought it was just like the coolest thing ever. But make sure that you're taking breaks, stretching your legs, but also your dogs need it too. Cats really, I mean, I've seen some cats that are trained to go on a leash. Most of them, they're just happy to curl up in the back seat or in their carrier and be chill. But, sometimes they might need to, kind of get out, use a litter box, so that they can relieve themselves as well. The other thing that I wanted to stress is, again, if something were to happen, you have to slam on your brakes, or something, something like that. Make sure that you're securing them safely in the car. They've got doggy seat belts. I've seen doggy car seats. They've got, a wire barrier that you can put up in like your back area if you've got an SUV so that they can't go flying across the car. But make sure that you're securing them safely because, again, if you slam, you don't want them flying because they're not paying attention. They don't know what's going on the road, so they're not able to like brace themselves. And so we don't want them hurt unexpectedly from something like that. You also want to try to keep a regular routine. So whether you're doing a road trip or if you're in somebody else's house, both dog, cat, bird, iguana, whatever, they do like routines. If you think about it, think about when you want to sleep in on the weekends because it's not 6 a.m. and you don't have to get up to work and your cat is standing on your face screaming at you because he doesn't care that it's Saturday morning and you don't need to get up. He wants to be fed at 6 a.m. and he's going to let you know. So most of our pets are very, very much creatures of habit. So we want to make sure that we're trying to keep them on the same routine as possible. Sometimes also if you really switch things up and you're not feeding them when they're used to and really stretching out in between meals, that can cause sometimes can cause some dietary issues with them as well. So again, you want to try to keep things as much of a routine as possible because also that will cause undue stress. They're going to be like, hey, why aren't you feeding me? It's 5 a.m. I'm ready to go. Taking walks, keeping them exercise. We all know exercise is really good to help diminish stress levels. And same thing with these guys. Again, not so much the cats, but the dogs, getting them out, getting them exercise, allowing them to sniff around the neighborhood. All of that will really help with those stress levels. So also you need not just packing for you and your family, but you also need to pack for your pet as well. Making sure that you've got plenty of food, making sure that you've got, if you can, bring their water bowl that they're used to, their food bowl that they're used to. If you can bring a blanket or a dog bed or a pet bed that smells like them that they're used to, that's what they had at home. All of that will help acclimate them if they're in a new environment. Also, make sure that if they're on any type of medication, making sure that you're bringing all of that. So again, that we're trying to keep things exactly the same as if they were experience it at home, just in another spot. And then also, if you are traveling across state lines, not all places will ask for this, but you don't want to get caught without it. But depending on where you're going, you may need to have a health certificate. And so you need to make sure that you talk to your veterinarian if you're going to need that. If you're traveling internationally, you're definitely going to need a health certificate. There's also new requirements that the CDC put out in regards to rabies vaccinations. So you want to make sure that you're up on that because you do need to have, depending on where you're going, there's new requirements on bringing animals back into the country if you were in an area that has rabies, if the dog's not vaccinated, and they also have to be a certain age. That's a new requirement. So you want to make sure that wherever you're going, you're up on the laws there so that you're not going to have issues if you show up at the airport and they're like, yeah, just kidding, you can't go. And you've spent all this money on flights. So you want to make sure that you know all of the regulations, and your veterinarian's office, we're up to date on that. We can absolutely guide you and advise you on the paperwork that you're going to need, but also any vaccinations. I'm here in Arizona. A lot of our students and faculty and staff were kind of all over the country, and there's different vaccines depending on where you're located or where you're traveling to. So you want to make sure that if you're going to an area that has, say, leptospirosis, that's much more common in certain areas, and they're recommending that, or if there's certain tick-borne illnesses that you need to be aware of and vaccinate for. So you do want to make sure that your pet is covered for any potential diseases and issues that might pop up to wherever you're going. And then also with traveling, you want to make sure that your ID tags, I highly recommend, again, besides pet insurance, I cannot stress microchipping enough. You want to make sure that the microchip company is up to date with your current address and phone number. I cannot tell you the number of times where we've found a stray, we've scanned them, they have a microchip, and then we call the microchip company and we're like, hey, we've got this dog here. This is their microchip number. And then we try to call the phone number that they've given us that they have on record, and it's been disconnected or been assigned to somebody that's like, I have no idea. I've never owned that pet in my life. So please, please, please make sure that all of that is current and up to date. So again, if God forbid something happens and your pet gets loose, that they're able to contact you so that you guys can be reunited. All the shelters have universal scanners. They automatically scan pets that come in, and again, they'll be on the phone and saying, "Hey, we have this pet here," because shelters get overwhelmed during the holidays and they don't want to have pets in there unnecessarily. So again, please, please, please make sure that's up to date. All right, so let's do the what not to eat first, and then we're going to do the what you can feed. This is well, she's now since passed away, but this was my golden retriever. And again, I dog shame her. There's also a picture of her and my cat that I've shamed at the very end of this lecture. But so she was only about a year and a half at this in this when she did this. She was a big time counter surfer, and that's you do really want to be careful if you have pets that are counter surfers. I also have a cat that's a counter surfer too, unfortunately. He thinks there is absolutely nothing wrong with him jumping up on the dining room table or my buffet table or my kitchen counters and seeing what I'm cooking or making. So you do want to be aware of that if you have cats or dogs that are able to access food inappropriately. So she ate a pan and a half of chocolate brownies that I had made. Got into that. Chocolate's very toxic for dogs. There's a chemical in the chocolate that actually can cause cardiac issues, and it can cause some nervous system problems. So I had to take her to the ER. I did have pet insurance, so thankfully it was only $250 and not more than that. And then not a week later, that little booger, man, she counter served and she ate an entire pepperoni pizza, a large pepperoni pizza from Domino's, and then we had to go back to the ER. Thankfully, after that, because they did make her vomit twice, that was the last time she counter served. She did learn her lesson on that, so that was the end of it. But that was an expensive, week and a half that I had with her. So it's funny. So there's lots of amazingly good food during the holidays, but unfortunately, a lot of them are not so great for our pets. These are kind of the biggies that we typically see during the holidays. And so I just wanted to, and I'm happy to send this lecture out if anybody wants it, more than happy to send it to anyone. Well, they will sit and they will beg when you're making turkey, ham, those are not good for them. Really heavy fat content foods, if they're spiced a certain way, all of that can cause dietary issues, pancreatitis, which can actually be fatal in our pets. So you really want to be careful when you're making foods. And I'll talk about what you can give. So it's not going to be like we're completely, making them be miserable and not, letting them have anything. We just have to do it within reason. Foods that contain garlic, chives, or onions, this can affect the red blood cells of our pets, which can cause anemia. So we want to be very careful with those. And again, these are no-nos. This isn't just you can give them a little, don't give it at all. Raisins, grapes, or currants are a big problem. They can cause kidney failure. Cherries, parts of the cherries can contain cyanide, which is a toxin. Xylitol, which is an artificial sweetener that we see in a lot of stuff. Always check labels. They make it in certain peanut butters now, but xylitol is very, very toxic to our pets, and it can really cause issues with their blood sugars. It can cause them to go into liver failure, and I've seen many times where it is fatal. So again, want to be very careful with that. Like I mentioned, chocolate, various chocolates contain different components of the toxic substance in chocolate. So you do want to look and see, for example, like your very concentrated, like your baker's chocolate is going to be a lot worse than say your white chocolate because of that theobromine. So just kind of be aware of that. Unbaked yeast dough. And I've seen dogs like to eat this. And unfortunately, then what the yeast does once it gets into the stomach, it can cause them to bloat because of all of that excess gas. And again, a bloat can be a emergency situation. If it gets severe enough, they're going to require surgery. So, all of these things that we can, hopefully try to avoid. So what do our poor pets do? Because there seems to be a lot that they can't have, but what can we give them so that they don't feel that we're abusing them? So you can feed certain things, certain raw vegetables, carrots, green beans, celery, broccoli. A lot of pets will love those. They think it's amazing. My dog loved carrots. She thought that was like the greatest thing ever. So those are good to give them. And then if you're up there, so while you're cooking, like while you're making your green bean casserole, you can give them a piece of green bean, of raw green bean, and they'll think you're like the most amazing thing ever. And they don't realize that you're putting it's delicious cream of onion soup for you. They're just getting the delicious green bean. Fruits like apples, melons like watermelon, cantaloupe, strawberries, raspberries, those are good. Bananas they like. You do want to, again, these are high sugar foods and stuff. So, and whenever you're giving treats, you don't want to give so much that we're going to be obviously be causing weight issues because a lot of us gain weight over the holidays. We don't want our pets to gain the weight too. So again, treats in moderation. You can do unseasoned and skinless white meat turkey. So, if you want to cook a little bit extra, or maybe, like you could do a chicken. Don't do pork products though. However, ham, because of all of the salt and the way that it's prepared, a lot of pork products can cause digestive issues, pancreatitis, again, vomiting, diarrhea, that kind of stuff. So don't do pork, but our poultry products, if you don't have a pet that's allergic to poultry, you can do turkey or chicken. And then you could also, obviously, you could do just plain like hamburger, beef, or steak. Again, unseasoned. You can do plain pumpkin too. A lot of them like the canned pumpkin. Don't do the pie filling because again, that's got your cinnamon and your cloves and all of your delicious additives. But just plain old pumpkin. And they don't know, they don't know the difference between pumpkin pie filling and just plain pumpkin. They just think they're getting food that you're eating, and they think like that's the most amazing thing ever. All right, so holiday decorations. So we do want to be very careful because a lot of our Christmas tree looks like a giant toy box to both our dogs and our cats. It's shiny, there's lights, there's balls, there's, potentially animals depending on how you decorate your tree. I have little stuffed animals as some of my decorations, and those are toys to them. And they don't realize that it's not fair game. They don't realize that this is supposed to be a beautiful decoration in your house, but this is a ginormous disaster potentially waiting to happen. So some things to be aware of, and I'll talk about plants in another slide in a second. But you see the pictures of the cats like sticking their head out of the Christmas tree, and then 5 minutes later the tree falls over, or they're jumping on it and knocking it over. And a lot of us have ornaments that have been passed down from generation, and you don't want it to look like the German Shepherd looking very guilty in that picture. You want to have an intact tree during the holidays, so just be aware of some of that. Cats in particular love to chew on things. Tinsel is a big no-no. Try not to, if you can. Don't do tinsel. We see cats coming in with what we call linear foreign bodies, where they start eating the tinsel, and because it's like a long string, ribbon, decoration ribbon, if you're wrapping gifts, that can be another one that causes issues. That's going to be a surgical fix, which again can get very expensive. So be aware of some of this stuff, because it can cause issues like our foreign bodies. So if they, God forbid, bite down on a glass ball, obviously that's going to cause wounds in the mouth, but they can also ingest that, and that can cause issues that's going to require surgical intervention. Cats in particular like to chew on electrical cords. However, we've seen dogs do it as well, particularly younger dogs. So be aware of any type of cords that if you catch them doing that, be aware of it. Poisonings from chewing on the pine trees, but also drinking the Christmas tree water, because a lot of us put additives in it to keep the tree fresh and healthy. And then that can be toxic to animals. And then burning candles or incense or the little essential oils, those can cause issues with our pets as well. So just be aware of some of that. And again, I mean, I've had a Christmas tree, forever, and it's just it's not that you can't have it, just be aware of some of these things, particularly if you've got new pets that you haven't had this in this situation before. Be aware of it so that you can kind of keep an extra eye out for it. I got a lot of these, well, I got all of these different schematics off the internet, and I actually really like this one, so I kind of added it in at the last minute. But this was kind of like basically how to put together a Christmas tree that's not going to kill your animal. But it's really actually really kind of some good ideas. And one of the things, and again, it doesn't look super pretty, but you can always put a baby gate around your tree. It's a little bit harder to keep cats out of that because they can, climb and then jump into it. But you can have a safe tree that's not going to, potentially be a threat to your animal. So these are just some things kind of to be aware of, to kind of keep the pets away from the tree. Tying ornaments down a little bit better so that they're not just on those metal hooks, but actually using twist ties so that they're on there securely so that the pets can't tie them up. Securing the tree to the wall using like a fishing line or some sort of wire to attach it to the wall so that they can't knock it over. Because that could, I mean, trees can get heavy, and that can also be problematic if it falls on them. Using tinfoil around the base of the tree, because once the cats tend to not like that. So once they step on it, they're like, oh, that's icky. So that sometimes will keep them from going around the tree, trying to drink the water into in the base of the tree, but trying to keep them from climbing up it. Sometimes the tinfoil can help too. And then there's a lot of beautiful plants that we have around the holidays. Unfortunately, most of them are poisonous. There are some, and you can get relatively safe if you look on the internet. Again, there's a ton of suggestions for safe holiday plants, but a lot of the very common ones, unfortunately, are poisonous for our pets. Interestingly enough, poinsettias, which kind of have the baddest rap in regards to a not pet friendly, those are actually the least worrisome of all of these. A lot of your lilies, your evergreens, your amaryllis, a lot of those, depending on the species, can actually be fatally toxic to our pets. Poinsettias, a lot of times they're usually going to cause irritation. Weirdly enough, in horses, because I'm more of a large animal tech, in horses it can cause skin irritation, but if the horse were to try to eat it, it can also cause basically blistering and ulcerations in their mouth. But it can also do that in dogs and cats as well. So while they're not like super, the animal's probably not going to die from it. It is irritating, and we just want to try to avoid that. All right. And then lastly, let's talk about well-being, because again, it is a stressful time. It's stressful for us. We're having to buy presents and we're having to cook all of this food. And we've got the relatives who we may or may not like are coming over to spend time with us. And it's a lot, but it's also a lot on our pets as well, because everything that they're used to once a year changes into craziness. Again, they've got the decorations, the house smells different. They've got people coming in that they may or not be thrilled with, or they've never met them before. And for a lot of animals, that can cause stress because they're like, I don't like people. I like my humans. I don't want anyone else in my house. Why are these people in my house? So giving them areas where they can retreat so that if they don't want to, I wish we had that more often, but if there's areas that they can go off and hide and not feel the need to interact with other people, that's going to help reduce stress for them. And also if it's areas where it's not quite as noisy, because a lot of you got music playing, and lights and people are loud and talking. So just be aware that if we can provide them a kind of a safe spot, that can really help with them. Also be aware, a lot of people do fireworks on New Year's Eve. A lot of dogs have huge, huge phobias with that noise. So there's lots of medications that your veterinarian can provide that can help with the anxiety around fireworks and the noise. And then you've got the blow, the things that blow and and make all of that. So just be aware that a lot of the noises can set these poor guys off. And so again, providing that safe space, but also medication can help reduce that stress as well. So I talked about this with the travel, and this, goes again, can't be stressed enough, but, sense of normalcy and trying to keep things as normal as possible. Again, you got various people coming in the house, but trying to keep their meal times, getting them exercise, because if they're cooped up and you're ignoring them because you've got 80 bazillion things on your to-do list, not getting exercise and not being able to release that energy can cause stress for these guys. So trying to keep things as normal as possible. Spending some one-on-one time, taking them for a walk, cuddling on the couch, having quiet time. We need that, right? We need to have that downtime during the holidays too. So if you can do that, that's gonna, they're gonna really appreciate it. And then it's gonna lower your stress levels. Because how many of us feel better when we're on the couch cuddling up with our pets, watching Hallmark movies? Also, if you're, again, you're, going out to holiday parties and shopping and doing all of that, also be aware of how much time that your pet is home alone. Because again, that does start to weigh on them. If they're like, hey, where is my human? Why aren't they here? I'm feeling very neglected. That's also tends to be where negative behaviors start to pop up and they're going to start getting into things they probably shouldn't. So, be cognizant of leaving them home alone, making sure that they've been exercised, making sure that any things that they're not supposed to be getting into are put up and protected. If you can get, if you're not able to, because it's just crazy, getting someone to come in that the animal knows really well, just to come in and spend some time with them, give them a treat, pet them, take them for a walk, let them outside. All of that can really help reduce their stress levels. And again, like I said, making sure that they have that quiet place because of all the hustle and bustle, making sure that they have a quiet place to retreat to. Even if you've got a dog that is like, oh my God, I love people, I want to see all the humans, that can also be overwhelming too. And it's like, okay, you are like so overstimulated, you need a quiet place too. So even if they love all of the attention and love all the people, it's actually good to have them have some downtime too, so that they're not super crazy stimulated. And again, there's medication. If you've got a dog that is a very anxious dog and that you can see it, their body language is going to tell you that they're starting to get stressed out because they're going to, you can see it. talk to your veterinarian. Again, there's medications that we can give to help kind of calm that anxiety. For noises, there is a product called the Thunder Shirt, which is amazing because it works on compression and kind of, calming them by having that compression all over their body. Those work really good. So, again, talk to your veterinarian if you're worried about the holidays and about what it might do to your pet. They can help give you lots of suggestions to kind of help ease that anxiety. So, because I am a glutton for punishment and I like to punish both my children and my pets, I am that person that makes everybody wear matching pajamas over the holidays. So, this was last Christmas with my dog and my cat. I mentioned she passed away in May. So, the cat will still be getting matching pajamas this year, despite the fact that he thought he was going to get out of it. He's going to still get them. And then the children, even though they're goodness, 22, almost 30, and 27, they're going to get matching pajamas too, because you're never too old for matching pajamas. But in summary, again, stress, the holidays are stressful for all of us. And it's not just us, our pets feel it too. So trying to keep the routine for them so that their whole world just hasn't been upended. Looking for potential dangers, such as, certain decor. You can see I've got, lots of balls and lights and my stuffed animals on my tree. So looking for issues. Looking for the various types of plants. If you're getting, a gift of a beautiful poinsettia, putting it where the pets can't get at it, and being cognizant of the food and the availability of the food for your pets to counter serve or to get into it. Giving them opportunities as to where they can have a timeout, where they can escape, where they can retreat and not have to deal with the craziness. Look for signs of illness from ingestion of what I call the no-nos. All right, whether it be food, plant, decoration, what have you. If you notice that your pet is not acting normally, if you notice drooling, if they're lethargic, if they're vomiting, diarrhea, if they've gone off food and they're refusing food, these are all potential signs that something is amiss, and you're going to want to talk to your veterinarian and probably get them seen and looked at so that it doesn't become a catastrophic issue. But most of all, enjoy the holidays with your pets, because a lot of them really do have fun and they do like the people and they can get treats, and we give them presents and we do dress them up in obnoxious holiday pajamas. But most of them do really like it. So you do want to also take that time and enjoy the special seasons with your pet as well. So, because I am in Arizona, we actually really do dress up cactus as snowmen. So I just thought, those of you guys that are East Coast, I thought you guys might appreciate that. So I'm going to stop sharing my screen so I can see the questions if we have any.
Thanks, Jen, for a great talk. And everyone, the Q&A button is a way for you to ask Jen some questions. And I was going to ask you, Jen, do you have tips? Because sometimes with the holidays, some of us in general lead pretty quiet lives. And then on the holidays, we have a drop in. And all of a sudden the doorbell is ringing all the time. And do you have any suggestions on just those, as people are arriving, ways, if you have a super social dog or, a cat, are there any tips there for ways to make that smoother?
Yeah, one of the things that I would do, particularly, if I'm doing like a holiday party and I've got people walking in and out frequently, I do have a cat that thinks he should be an outdoor cat and he's not, because he's 8,000 years old and he would not survive outside. But I'll put him away, let people come in, and then as things have kind of settled down and people have their drinks and their food, and it's not quite so crazy, then you can let the animals out so they can see everybody and then greet, and then as people are leaving, I would put them away again so that they're not able to sneak out the door. But that way they're not, every time the doorbell rings, it's not like and they're going crazy wanting to say hello, but it's like, okay, let's get everyone in, then we're going to come out and say hi. I see a question. Is there anything I can do at home instead of going to the ER? It really depends on what the problem is. If they're just having, I would like minor diarrhea, it's just a little loose, but they're eating, they're acting fine. That's something that you could potentially just keep an eye on for a while. It never hurts. You can call your vet. Veg, which is one of the big emergency clinics in the nation. You can call, there's no charge. You can actually call them and say, hey, this is what's going on. Is it something that I should be worried about? Your vet should do that as well, but you can absolutely don't ever hesitate. We would much rather try to do some sort of triage with you on the phone and talk to you about it, than have it be something that could potentially be a huge issue. So never hesitate to contact your local veterinarian, because we're always happy to talk to you. But home treatment, again, it's going to depend on exactly what's going on. I did tend to talk really fast through that, but I made it 30 minutes. I was worried I would do it in 15. Other questions? You guys can't let me off this easy. Oh, great question. So my dog has a really hard time in the car, anxiety and nausea. What helps? So there's several medications. There's one over the counter that you can get to help with the nausea. But again, talk to your veterinarian to make sure that you're getting the correct dosage. Anxiety, there isn't really anything over the counter that you can get for that. Those are prescription drugs. But again, talking to your veterinarian, there's lots of good stuff that can help them so that they're not going cuckoo for Cocoa Puffs in a car, and that they're not wanting to vomit. Another good question. What do you think about pet specific Christmas treats? They're okay. Again, read the labels. Make sure that there's nothing that your dog is or your pet is allergic to. For example, my golden retriever was allergic to poultry, so she couldn't have any chicken or turkey flavored treats. But like the Christmas cookies that you can buy in like PetSmart, man, she loved those. So a lot of those are safe, but just read the label, make sure that there's nothing in there that your pet has issues with. But those are typically fine to give as well. Again, don't go crazy because nobody wants the 10 extra holiday pounds, because 10 pounds on our dog or our cat is a big deal. So just make sure that we're not going nuts with the treats either.
And Jen, I've heard you mention it in other talks and today as well. Just if you know you're going to be traveling or going to a vet office, things that raise anxiety for your pet, sometimes talking ahead of time, like before you have to go to a vet office, just having some of those meds to calm your dog or cat ahead of time can just be super helpful to have on hand.
Yeah, that's a really good point. We always want to make the vet visits, we want to make those as fear-free and stress-free as possible. And there's absolutely ways that we can work with pet owners to make things so that it's, if not enjoyable, at least not painful and not totally stressful for the pet. And there's ways that we can do that again with medication. Yeah, you might want to try. So the question is, sorry, I didn't mean to answer without reading it. Do you recommend trying out the calming meds ahead of time? Yeah, it definitely doesn't hurt. Again, because we're not sure how sometimes the animals are going to react to it. So once you know that there's potential issues coming out, you absolutely can try it ahead of time. I mean, we do know, like if it's an anti-anxiety or a sedative, we know how that's going to work. It's going to gork them out. So you don't necessarily need to sedate them ahead of time, but on some of the behavioral medications, getting them on that early can help. Other questions? I finally broke out my Christmas sweater for this too, even though it's November 14th. Why not? Give it another minute. And this will be recorded, so we will send it out to everybody. And also, I'm very, very happy to send out this PowerPoint if anybody wants a copy. Question is recommendations for those people with puppies and kittens to celebrate their first holiday? Yes. Lock down the tree. Puppies and kittens are going to be probably the most likely to get into trouble because they're young and they just don't know any better. So when it is the first holiday with your pet, that's when you really want to keep a close eye on them so that they're not going to get into trouble, because they will be attracted by the lights and they will think that it's a giant chew toy of a Christmas tree. So definitely keep an eye on those younger animals because they're the ones that are most likely to get into trouble.
Well, I'm going to stop recording, but Jen, thank you for a wonderful session.
Thanks you guys for coming, and don't hesitate to reach out to any of us on the Vet Tech team. If you've got further questions, we're always happy to talk to anybody. So thanks, guys. Happy holidays.